It was supposed to be the best night of our lives. Cage of Echoes, our favorite band, was performing in the city, and Lily, Cam, and I had been counting down for months. Tickets sold out in minutes, but we'd gotten lucky with 4 seats. Not only were we going to be there, but we were going to be right there, in the middle of the crowd, feeling the music vibrate through our bones, the electric energy of thousands of fans surrounding us. Lily had been my best friend since middle school. She was the kind of girl who lived on the edge, always diving headfirst into everything, never worrying about consequences. People gravitated toward her effortlessly, and I always found myself pulled into her chaos. Cam, quieter but no less loyal, balanced us out. He'd always been the voice of reason, keeping us grounded when things got too wild. But tonight, all of us were buzzing with anticipation. The concert was more than just a show. It was an escape, a night to lose ourselves in the music. For Lily, it was a break from the whirlwind of college parties, exams, and the usual drama. For Cam, it was a rare moment to let go, to be swept up in something larger than himself. And for me, it was a chance to forget everything that had been gnawing at the back of my mind. The unease, the growing distance I felt between us as life got in the way. We arrived at the concert hall early, standing in line with hundreds of others, the distant murmur of sound checks vibrating through the walls. Lily was practically bouncing on her feet, her excitement contagious. "I swear," she said, flipping her blonde hair over her shoulder, "if Cole makes eye contact with me, I'll lose it." I laughed, though I couldn't shake the strange feeling that had been following me all day. Something felt off, like a weight hanging over me, but I couldn't put my finger on it. I chalked it up to nerves and pushed it aside. The moment we got inside the venue, the atmosphere was intoxicating. Lights flashed overhead, casting long shadows over the crowd, and the air was thick with sweat, excitement, and anticipation. The opening band played, but none of us paid much attention. We were waiting for Cage of Echoes, the band that had been the soundtrack of our teenage years, to take the stage. When they finally did, the place exploded. The first chords hit like a wave, crashing over us, and suddenly, I forgot about everything. The pulsing lights, the screams of the crowd, the deep thrum of the bass. It all swallowed me whole. Lily was beside herself, arms raised, screaming the lyrics to every song like it was a personal anthem. Everything was perfect, until it wasn't. Halfway through the set, I felt it again. That nagging sense of dread, only this time it was stronger, harder to ignore. The band was playing one of their heavier tracks, and for a moment, the lights flickered. Just for a second, but long enough to make me freeze. When the lights came back, something was different. I couldn't quite put my finger on it, but the atmosphere had shifted, the crowd swaying more sluggishly, like they were moving in slow motion. I glanced at Lily. She was still lost in the music, her eyes locked on the stage. But then I saw it. The lead singer, Cole, staring back at her. It wasn't the casual glance of a performer engaging with the crowd. His eyes were glued to her, intense and predatory, like he was studying her. The connection between them was palpable, and it sent a chill crawling up my spine. I nudged Lily. "Does Cole look off to you?" Lily didn't even turn to me, her gaze still fixed on Cole. "He's performing, duh. This is his thing." I couldn't shake the feeling, though. Something was definitely wrong. The music was heavier, darker than it had been earlier, like the band had slipped into something far more sinister. The crowd around us wasn't jumping, wasn't dancing like before. They were swaying, almost trance-like, their faces slack, their eyes distant. I felt a sick churn in my stomach as I looked at the people surrounding us. Their movements unnatural, like they were under a spell. "Lily," I said, my voice shaking a bit. "Something's wrong." But she didn't hear me. She was too focused on the stage, her face flushed, her eyes glazed over as if she were lost in a dream. Cole was still staring at her, his lips curling into a slow, twisted smile. The hairs on the back of my neck stood up. Something was very, very wrong. And then the lights cut out completely. The blackout lasted only a few seconds, but in that darkness, the air was thick with a suffocating sense of panic. People screamed, phones lit up to sea of faces, and for the first time, I felt genuine fear clawing at my chest. When the lights flickered back on, everything had changed. Lily was gone. I turned frantically, pushing through the crowd, my heart hammering in my chest. "Lily!" I shouted, but my voice was swallowed by the noise. Cam grabbed my arm, his face pale. "Where's Lily?" he asked, looking just as panicked as I felt. "I don't know." I scanned the sea of faces, but she was nowhere to be found. 1 second, she was there, and the next, it was like she'd vanished into thin air. "Let's check the bathrooms. Maybe she went there," Cam said, his voice trembling. We shoved our way through the crowd, heading toward the back of the venue where the restrooms and exits were. But when we got there, it was chaos. Security guards were blocking the doors, telling people to stay calm, that there was an incident backstage. An incident? My stomach twisted. What kind of incident? I asked one of the guards, my voice shaking. "We're handling it," he said, his face grim, not offering any more information. But that didn't stop the pit in my stomach from growing deeper. Then, without warning, a scream echoed through the hallway. It was sharp, high-pitched, and full of terror. Everyone froze, the chatter dying down instantly. My blood ran cold as I turned toward the sound. It had come from backstage. I didn't think. I just ran. Cam was right behind me as I shoved past the guards, ignoring their shouts. All I could think about was finding Lily, making sure she was okay. But nothing could have prepared me for what I saw when I burst through the door. Lily was there, sitting on the floor, drenched in blood. Her hair was matted to her face, her hands covered in crimson. Across from her lay Cole, the lead singer. He was dead, his chest torn open, blood pooling around his limp body. His eyes were wide open, staring blankly at the ceiling. Lily looked up at me, and the expression on her face was one I'd never seen before. Her eyes were dark, hollow, like the life had been sucked out of her. But it was the smile that sent ice through my veins. It wasn't Lily's smile. It was cold, twisted, almost feral. What the hell happened? Cam's voice cracked as he stepped back, staring at Lily in horror. Lily stood up slowly, her movements unnaturally graceful, her eyes fixed on me. "He asked for it," she said, her voice low and chilling. "They needed a sacrifice. And, well, he was available." My heart was pounding so hard, I thought I might pass out. "What? Who needed a sacrifice?" She laughed, a sound so dark and twisted it barely sounded human. "Don't worry. I won't hurt you. We're friends, right?" I took a step back, my breath catching in my throat. This wasn't Lily. It couldn't be. "Let's get out of here, okay?" I stammered, trying to keep my voice steady. "We can figure this out." As I tried talking her down, I could hear the commotion of walkie-talkies and people running from the halls. Security was coming to get her. The police was coming to get her. "Come on, Lily, please. We really have to leave now." But I knew it was too late. They already saw Lily's face. More importantly, they already saw me in Cam's face. But she just tilted her head, that smile never fading. Why would I leave? This is only the beginning. Before I could say another word, the lights flickered, and when they came back on, Lily was gone. Just like that. Disappeared into the shadows, leaving behind nothing but Cole's lifeless body. Cam and I ran. We didn't stop until we were outside, gasping for air in the cold night. But no matter how far we ran, I couldn't shake the image of Lily's blood-soaked smile, her dark, empty eyes. The days that followed were a blur of confusion and terror. Lily was gone, vanished without a trace. The police were called, but there was no explanation for what had happened. No body, no evidence, nothing except Cole's mutilated corpse and a concert that no one seemed to remember correctly. There was something about the music that night. As the days passed, I pieced together bits of information that made everything even more horrifying. The concert wasn't just an ordinary event. There were rumors circulating online, whispers in forums and deep corners of the internet about Cage of Echoes. They weren't just a band. They were tied to something darker, something ancient. Their music wasn't just meant to entertain. It was a ritual, a way to summon forces beyond our understanding. And Cole had been a willing participant, feeding off the energy of the crowd to carry out their twisted tradition. The sacrifice was always meant to happen. Someone had to be offered, and the ritual called for a chosen one, a soul who could take the dark energy and harness it for something far more sinister. That night, Lily had been chosen. The moment Cole locked eyes with her, it sealed her fate. She was supposed to be the sacrifice, but somehow, Lily had overpowered him. She had absorbed whatever darkness they summoned, and instead of being the victim, she became the vessel for it. The scariest part? No one remembered because that was part of the magic. The ritual had cloaked the memories of everyone at the concert, leaving them dazed, their recollections foggy and distorted. It was as if the entire night had been erased from the collective consciousness. Only those directly involved like me and Cam remembered anything at all. And Lily? She got away with it because she had become something more. She wasn't just Lily anymore. Whatever dark force had been summoned now lived within her, allowing her to slip through the cracks of reality, free to disappear and return whenever it pleased. Cam tried to go back to normal, but I couldn't. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Lily. The way she looked at me, the way her voice had sounded like something had taken over her. As weeks turned into months, news reports of strange deaths began to surface, unexplained, brutal killings across the area. No one seemed to draw a connection, but I knew. Every time another body was found, it lined up with where Cage of Echoes had performed. It was as if Lily was following them, drifting from town to town, leaving a trail of destruction behind her. But these weren't random killings. They were eerily similar to what I had witnessed that night. Victims were found drained of life, their faces twisted in terror, just like Cole's had been. I couldn't shake the feeling that Lily had embraced the darkness within her. She had become something more than human, something that fed on fear and death. Each new concert brought more power, more victims, and no one could stop her. Meanwhile, I was barely hanging on. Going back to normal life wasn't an option, not after what I'd seen. I tried to warn people, but every time I did, they looked at me like I was crazy. I told anyone who would listen to avoid Cage of Echoes to stay far away from their concerts, but no one believed me. The band had only gotten more popular, and their fan base was more rabid than ever. People thought I was some delusional conspiracy theorist, and I was beginning to feel like one too. But I knew the truth, and I couldn't let it go. Each time they announced a new tour, I would frantically post warnings online, hand out flyers, and try to sabotage their shows. Anything to prevent more deaths. But it was always the same. My efforts were futile, and the bodies kept piling up. The worst part? I could feel something changing in me too. That night had left its mark. The darkness had touched me, just like it had touched Lily. Sometimes I'd wake up in the middle of the night, drenched in sweat, feeling like I wasn't alone. Like something was watching me, waiting. My nightmares grew more vivid, and I swore I could hear Lily's voice whispering my name, beckoning me to join her. I was trapped in a nightmare that wouldn't end, constantly on edge, knowing that Lily was out there, thriving, while I was stuck trying to stop the inevitable. The darkness had spread, and I knew it was only a matter of time before it came for me too. Cam tried to go back to normal, but I couldn't. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Lily. The way she looked at me, the way her voice had sounded, like something had taken over her.